What if I told you that becoming a millionaire is actually simpler than it looks, and you don't need a finance degree or risky bets to get there? In this video, I'll break down the exact stress-free plan my wife and I are using to reach $1 million in under 30 years. We started with just $10,000 saved and no special investing background, but the real secret wasn't jumping straight ahead into the stock market. Before we invested a single dollar, we focused on two key steps: building a solid emergency fund and paying off high-interest debt. These foundations made everything less intimidating and set us up for real, lasting growth. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by investing, you're definitely not alone. Let's talk about why so many people find investing confusing and how you can avoid the common mistakes that hold most beginners back. For a lot of people, investing seems like a maze of complicated choices and high-stakes decisions. The sheer amount of advice out there, from stock-picking tips to the latest cryptocurrency trend, can make it feel like you need a PhD just to get started. When you're bombarded with conflicting opinions, it's no wonder so many people hesitate or put off investing altogether. This constant stream of information doesn't just confuse, it can actually stop you from taking any action at all. The fear of making a wrong move and losing money can loom large, especially when your financial future is on the line. Many beginners get stuck trying to find the perfect investment or the ideal time to enter the market. They spend hours researching, comparing, and second-guessing themselves. Before they know it, months or even years have gone by without making any progress. That sense of paralysis is incredibly common, and it's fueled by the belief that investing is more complicated than it really needs to be. There's also the temptation to chase whatever's hot right now. Maybe you've heard stories about someone striking it rich with a new cryptocurrency or a trendy stock. It sounds exciting, but these stories rarely mention the losses that come when the market takes a turn or the trend fizzles out. On the other side, some people go to the opposite extreme, overanalyzing every option, waiting for the stars to align before they invest a single dollar. Both approaches add unnecessary stress and often end with disappointment or regret. The reality is, most people overcomplicate investing because they think complexity equals better results. But research, and plenty of real-world experience, shows that simple strategies often win out in the long run. For example, low-cost index funds, like the Fidelity 500 Index Fund, have consistently outperformed the average investor who tries to pick individual stocks. I learned this lesson firsthand in college when my finance class had us build portfolios by picking stocks. Despite all the analysis and effort, my results barely kept up with the market, and the experience was honestly nerve-wracking. That early exposure made me realize just how unpredictable and stressful stock picking can be, especially for beginners. What's interesting is that by sticking to straightforward investments like index funds or mutual funds that track the market, you can actually remove a lot of the emotional ups and downs. You're not glued to the news, worried about every market dip or headline. Instead, you're following a plan that's proven to work over decades, not just days or months. This approach doesn't just perform well, it also frees you from the constant stress of trying to outsmart the market. To put it another way, investing isn't about solving a puzzle with missing pieces. It's more about following a recipe that's worked for generations. It might not be flashy, but it's reliable and gets you where you want to go. When I finally shifted my mindset and focused on these simple, proven strategies, everything changed. I no longer worried about missing out on the next big thing or making a costly mistake. I could invest with confidence, knowing I was building wealth steadily over time. Something else that made a huge difference for me was having a safety net in place before I started investing. Back when I had saved my first $10,000, that emergency fund gave me peace of mind. I wasn't worried about needing to pull money out of my investments if something unexpected happened. That foundation made it much easier to stick to my plan and avoid panicking during market swings. The truth is, the biggest obstacle isn't the act of investing itself. It's the unnecessary complexity that surrounds it. When you strip away the noise and focus on what actually works, investing becomes much less intimidating and far more effective. You don't need to be a financial expert or keep up with every market trend. You just need a clear, simple plan that fits your life. But before you can put any plan into action, there's something even more important than picking the right investments. The real starting point for stress-free investing isn't about stocks or timing the market at all. It begins with building a strong financial base that can support you through anything. Instead, the first real step is setting up the conditions that let you invest with confidence and sleep well at night. The foundation of a stress-free plan comes down to two things: a fully funded emergency fund and eliminating high-interest debt. These steps may sound basic, but they're what keep your investments protected and your mind at ease, no matter what life throws your way. Let's start with the emergency fund. This is your financial buffer, money set aside to cover 3 to 6 months of living expenses in case something unexpected happens. Think about how quickly an unplanned event, like a job loss, can throw your budget off track. Without a cushion, you might be forced to pull money from your investments at the worst possible time, especially if the market is down. That not only interrupts your long-term growth, but could also mean locking in losses and facing penalties. An emergency fund prevents that scenario. It lets you handle surprises without derailing your investment plan or piling on new debt. Building up this fund doesn't have to be overwhelming. Many people start with a couple $1,000s and build from there. The key is to create a buffer that gives you breathing room. Once you have 3 months' worth of expenses set aside, you're in a much stronger position than most people to weather financial storms and invest with real confidence. JC's own experience is a good example here. He waited to start investing until he'd saved $10,000 as an emergency fund. That decision wasn't just about following a rule, it was about feeling secure enough to invest for the long haul without worrying about having to pull money out at the wrong moment. The second step is just as important: eliminating high-interest debt. This means credit cards, personal loans, or anything else with double-digit interest rates. The math here is simple but powerful. Credit cards can charge 15 to 25% interest, while a good index fund might average 10% returns in a strong year. Paying off high-interest debt is like giving yourself a guaranteed return. If your card charges 20%, wiping out that balance is the same as earning 20% risk-free. No investment can reliably match that, so it makes sense to tackle these debts before putting money into the market. Skipping these steps can create a cycle of stress that undermines your progress. Imagine starting to invest while still carrying high-interest debt. Each month, minimum payments eat into your budget. If something unexpected happens, you might have to rely on those same credit cards again, digging a deeper hole. Or you might feel forced to sell investments when the market is down, turning temporary losses into permanent ones. This constant juggling act can make investing feel like a burden, not an opportunity. It's worth noting that not all debt is equally urgent. Lower interest debts, like student loans or car loans, don't have to be your first priority. Focus on the high-interest balances that threaten your financial stability. Once these are gone, you free up cash flow and reduce the pressure that can make investing feel risky or stressful. JC's story highlights the practical impact of these steps. Saving $10,000 for emergencies before investing changed his entire approach to money. He knew that if something went wrong, a job loss, a medical bill, he wouldn't have to touch his investments or rack up new debt. That sense of security made it much easier to stick to his investing plan and weather market ups and downs without panic. The real benefit of this foundation isn't just financial, it's psychological. When you know you're prepared for surprises and aren't weighed down by high-interest debt, Investing becomes something to look forward to. You can focus on growing your wealth instead of worrying about setbacks. Once these two steps are in place, you've set yourself up for a much smoother ride. The next part is about how to keep things simple and effective as you start investing. What if you only needed 3 straightforward rules to guide you all the way to your first million? Let's break it down. When it comes to building wealth without unnecessary stress, 3 core principles shape everything JC does: pre-diversification, investing instead of speculating, and keeping a long-term perspective. These aren't just buzzwords, they're the backbone of a plan that minimizes anxiety and maximizes results. The first principle, pre-diversification, is about spreading your investments across many companies right from the start. The simplest way to do this is through index funds or mutual funds. For example, the Fidelity 500 Index Fund gives you a stake in 500 different companies with a single purchase. Picture it like this. If you had to pick one pen out of a box and hope it works, you'd be taking a risk. But with an index fund, it's like getting the whole box. If one pen fails, you have plenty of others to rely on. This built-in diversification means you don't have to worry about picking the perfect stock or reacting to every piece of the news. JC learned this the hard way in college when he and his classmates tried to beat the market by selecting individual stocks. Despite their best efforts, their portfolios rarely outperformed the market, and the constant second-guessing was exhausting. Pre-diversification through funds takes that pressure off, providing steady growth and peace of mind. Mutual funds can also offer diversification, but with a twist. Some are designed to focus on specific industries or types of companies, like technology or fast-growing businesses. While these specialized funds might offer higher returns, they also come with more risk. JC recommends looking closely at a fund's manager and expense ratio before jumping in. High fees can eat into your returns, so it's important to choose funds that keep costs low while still providing broad exposure. The second principle is to invest rather than speculate. This means putting your money into real businesses, companies that produce goods, offer services, and grow over time, rather than betting on price swings. The difference is clear when you look at something like cryptocurrency. While crypto can have huge price jumps, its value is based mostly on what someone else will pay for it, not on underlying business growth. JC has seen firsthand how speculation leads to stress. He remembers coworkers whose moods changed with every market move, excited on up days, anxious on down days. That emotional roller coaster can make investing feel like gambling, not planning for the future. By focusing on investments that represent ownership in businesses, you avoid the cycle of hype and panic that comes with speculative assets. JC's approach is to keep the majority of his portfolio in investments that have a track record of long-term growth, like index funds. That way, he doesn't have to constantly monitor the market or worry about missing the next big thing. If you're tempted to try your luck with crypto or individual stocks, JC suggests limiting these to a small slice of your portfolio, around 5% or less. This keeps things interesting without putting your long-term goals at risk. The third principle is maintaining a long-term perspective instead of reacting to every market dip or headline. JC looks at the bigger picture. He's investing with a 30-year timeline in mind, so short-term drops don't bother him. Over decades, the stock market's general trend is upward, even though there are plenty of bumps along the way. Selling during a downturn locks in losses, while staying invested allows your money to recover and grow. This mindset helps you avoid the urge to make impulsive decisions based on fear or excitement. It's normal to feel a bit of FOMO when you hear about people making quick gains in trending assets. JC's solution is to acknowledge that urge, but not let it drive his main strategy. By sticking to his core principles and only allocating a small amount to riskier bets, he stays motivated without jeopardizing his progress. Sticking to these 3 principles, pre-diversification, investing over speculating, and focusing on the long term removes much of the confusion and anxiety that can come with investing. Instead of chasing trends or worrying about every market move, you follow a plan designed to weather ups and downs and steadily build wealth. Understanding the principles is one thing, but seeing how they work in real life makes all the difference. Let's take a closer look at how JC and his wife put these ideas into practice to keep their investing journey simple, steady, and stress-free. JC's investment approach centers on a focused, disciplined portfolio built around just two core funds, the Fidelity Blue Chip Growth Fund, FBGRX, and the Fidelity 500 Index Fund, FXAIX. These choices aren't random. They're practical examples of how to apply pre-diversification, avoid speculation, and maintain a long-term outlook. Starting with the Fidelity Blue Chip Growth Fund, FBGRX, JC made a deliberate decision to include this fund despite its 0.79% expense ratio, which is higher than what you'll find in many index funds. The reason is straightforward. FBGRX has delivered a 10-year average annual return of over 15%. That kind of performance, especially from a fund focused on large established companies, can have a significant impact on long-term wealth building. JC sees the higher fee as a reasonable trade-off for access to strong performers and greater growth potential. For him, it's not just about minimizing costs, it's about maximizing returns where it matters most. Balancing out the growth focus of FBGRX is the Fidelity 500 Index Fund, FXAIX. This fund tracks the S&P 500 and comes with an ultra-low expense ratio of just 0.001%. That's as close to zero as you'll get in investing. With FXAIX, JC gains exposure to 500 of the largest U.S. companies, ensuring instant diversification. He doesn't need to guess which company will outperform next year or worry about a single stock derailing his progress. FXAIX's broad reach and low cost make it a natural fit for anyone who wants to keep investing simple, efficient, and low stress. Together, FBGRX and FXAIX create a balanced strategy. FBGRX offers targeted growth from blue-chip companies, while FXAIX provides stability and cost efficiency. Both funds embody the principle of pre-diversification. By investing in hundreds of companies across sectors, JC reduces his risk without having to constantly adjust his holdings. This setup also supports a long-term perspective. Even when the market dips, the historical upward trend of these funds give him confidence to stay invested rather than react impulsively. And because both funds represent ownership in real businesses, not speculative assets, JC avoids the emotional roller coaster that comes with chasing hot trends. A key part of JC's consistency is his commitment to disciplined saving. He and his wife have built habits that prioritize saving over spending, allowing them to invest regularly. By living below their means and making intentional choices about where their money goes, they free up more cash to contribute to their investment accounts. This steady approach means they can max out Roth IRAs, contribute to a 401k, and still work toward other goals. It's not about deprivation. It's about making small, sustainable choices that add up over time. Their investment plan also adapts as their priorities shift. Right now, saving for a house is a major goal. They allocate a significant portion of their income to a separate down payment fund, but they haven't paused their retirement contributions. Instead, they balance both objectives, ensuring they're building for the future while working towards something important in the present. This flexibility is central to JC's philosophy. Your investment strategy should fit your life, not the other way around. JC also recognizes that risk is part of investing. FBGRX, with its growth focus, is naturally more volatile than FXAIX. To manage this, he keeps the majority of his portfolio in indexed options like FXAIX, using FBGRX as a growth engine without letting it dominate his holdings. He limits any speculative investments such as cryptocurrency to a small slice, no more than 5% of his total portfolio. This approach keeps things interesting but doesn't threaten his long-term progress. What stands out in JC's strategy is its clarity and simplicity. He isn't chasing dozens of funds or reacting to market noise. Instead, he relies on proven choices, consistent contributions, and a willingness to adapt as life changes. His results show that building wealth doesn't require complexity or constant attention, just a reliable plan and the discipline to stick with it. By seeing how these principles play out in a real portfolio, it's clear that stress-free investing is accessible to anyone willing to start. The steps are straightforward, the logic is sound, and the benefits compound over time. Before you even think about investing, make sure you have a full emergency fund, enough to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses, and pay off any high-interest debt. These 2 steps set the stage for everything that follows and give you the freedom to invest without worry. Once your foundation is solid, focus on 3 clear principles: pre-diversification, investing instead of speculating, and keeping a long-term mindset. Start by picking one diversified fund and making regular contributions. This approach protects you from unnecessary risk and helps you make steady progress. If you want to learn more about the exact frugal habits and fund strategies that keep JC on track, don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you won't miss future videos where we break down the details of staying consistent and building real wealth over time.